10 agonizing minutes later. And we'll try and clean up this as well. This is the air purge valve on this gun. And it gets really nasty. That's enough to grease one coupler, so we're definitely going to keep it. Shit's not cheap. So a machine like this is the opposite of what you or I might think of in terms of looking for something. Normally you'd think, hey, you want something really clean and not dirty. Now that's, with the case of grease, that's the opposite. Let's see if we can get you guys up in here. This is a lot of dirt, but it's caked on grease. So that means that this machine has been, you can see this big wad of it here, that's old grease. and my new grease is poking out right there. So this is all old grease that's got dirt coated over the top of it. The good thing is that means somebody's been greasing it. That means that there's plenty of grease on this machine for dirt to stick to. Here's another really good example. Here's where this grease fitting is almost like a 45, and so I didn't have the nozzle on the nipple very well, so I spilled a bunch of grease. You can see down in the base there, I spilled a bunch of grease here trying to get it to go on. But here's another good example of caked on old grease. You can see the bright line of new grease coming through. But you know, if you weren't familiar with machinery, you'd say, man, this thing is nasty at all these places where it needs to be most effective. And in reality, that means somebody's been maintaining this machine pretty well. They've been putting grease on it frequently and liberally. So that's what we want to see. We'll check the pin tightness and how much slack it's got, but I'm going to hope that with this much grease that it's fairly tight. Here's another example of, so this grease fitting here is feeding this pivot point on the boom. So here we are, we're on the back of the boom, down at the bottom. And here's a pivot point, and there's the 90-degree grease fitting for it. Well, I was looking for it to come out here, or maybe over in here. Well, come to find out, it started coming out the back. So I wasted a good dollop of grease just because I couldn't see it. But what we're going to do is I'm going to stick my finger in there and we're going to collect all that, and then we're going to put it along with what you saw me save from the cap. We're going to disconnect this attachment. We're going to put it all down in here at the mounting surfaces. That'll make the machine couple and uncouple from its attachments much easier. This is a foot controls machine. You know, some of the more modern machines have 2 ISO joysticks, and one will work your boom and bucket, boom and tilt, and one will work your where the machine drives. And you usually can select a valve. A lot of times it'll be down in there, and you can flip it so that this is back and forward by each track, and then this way will be boom and this way will be bucket, depending on the layout of the machine. Well, older ones like my trusty old steed over there are foot control machines. So here your joysticks operate your tracks, and they just go forward and back. And then you've got auxiliary hydraulics and horn and stuff will be where your thumb can reach. And then your boom and your bucket are controlled by these 2 pedals down here. Sometimes, I know in my old machine, they're connected by a rail, and there'll be grease fittings in there. So I don't see any here yet, but I'm gonna look a little closer. But that's another place to look for grease fittings. That's old, we'll just chuck it. So now we're not wasting this grease, and we've got hopefully enough at least to do one side. Not from that angle. Took a little doing, a little beating, but we got the attachment point up. So what we're going to be doing is just greasing this pin. Just put it on your hands and work it in as best you can. Here's an obvious pivot point. I don't see a fitting for it, so you just do what you can to work it in. Same thing with this pin. I don't know, it's pivoting on it, So I'm going to assume it needs grease. I might be wrong, but if it's moving, we want to help it move. You served your duty well, little man. The country's proud of you. Oh, there's some right there. Hopefully as it gets more grease in and out of it, it'll be a little easier to do that. You shouldn't have to beat on it that hard anyway. Let's just harvest this. Part of it also is I didn't know how long it has been since this machine was greased. So if I couldn't see it, I just kept pumping. And clearly I over-greased it in a few spots, but that won't hurt anything. It'll make a mess, but if you can recapture, like I wouldn't use that because that's dirty and it's got shit in it. You don't want to put that dirt that's in that grease back into a fitting. But this clear stuff that was just right on the top, yeah, we'll reuse that. All right, we got it initially checked out. Now we'll fire it up and we'll check for blow by, and we will get it off the trailer. So you got stop, start, and run. I'm looking for a preheat. It may be automatic. Here you got headlights, auto idle maybe, on and off for your auxiliary hydraulics, and some kind of, that might be oh, that's to cycle your information screen. And you got a cluster of warning lights, fuel gauge, temp gauge, that's gonna have your hours and probably your RPM, track lock override, and then here is the safety, the parking brake. That's something to look at. That's had a splice in it. There's a connector not connected to something, but it may have been an option that wasn't included. All right, let's let me put my knife away so I don't stab myself. Let's see, on here you've got, that's a hydraulic in and out. That would, I guess that's going to be for your, well, so is that, and so is that, and so is that. I'm assuming that's for your auxiliary hydraulic systems. There's your turtle and rabbit speed. It's a 2-speed transmission. Here is, I don't know, we'll play with them and see. Key. There's your preheat, it's automatic. Your glow plugs. We'll wait for them to go off and then we'll fire the machine up.